In this section, we will explore how climate change and drought increase the risk of wildfires in Canada. Wildfires are natural phenomena that occur when vegetation catches fire and spreads rapidly. They can be ignited by lightning or human activities, such as campfires, cigarettes, or power lines. Wildfires can have devastating impacts on people, wildlife, and ecosystems, as well as contribute to air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Canada is one of the most fire-prone countries in the world, with an average of over 8,000 wildfires burning about 2.5 million hectares of forest every year. However, in 2023, Canada experienced an exceptional wildfire season that started earlier, lasted longer, and affected more regions than usual. More than 2,300 fires consumed about 9 million hectares of forest, far higher than the average by this point in the season. The fires forced tens of thousands of people to evacuate their homes and communities, and sent toxic smoke across the country and into the neighboring U.S. Scientists have been quick to link this disaster with climate change. Climate change is the long-term alteration of the Earth's climate system due to human activities that increase the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These gases trap heat and cause the planet to warm up. Climate change has many effects on the environment and society, such as melting glaciers, rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and biodiversity loss. One of the effects of climate change is that it creates more favorable conditions for wildfires to start and spread. Climate change is warming Canada at about twice the global average rate, according to a research scientist at the Canadian government's Environment Department. This means that Canada is experiencing more hot and dry days, especially in spring and summer, when wildfires are most likely to occur. Hotter temperatures increase the evaporation of moisture from the soil and vegetation, making them more flammable. Drier conditions also reduce the availability of water for firefighting and fire suppression. Another effect of climate change is that it alters the patterns of precipitation and drought in Canada. Precipitation is the amount of water that falls from the sky as rain or snow. Drought is a prolonged period of abnormally low precipitation that causes a shortage of water for human and natural uses. Climate change can affect both the amount and timing of precipitation in different regions of Canada, making some areas wetter and others drier than normal. For example, climate change can cause more intense rainfall events that increase the risk of flooding, but also longer dry spells that increase the risk of drought. Drought is a major factor that influences wildfire activity in Canada. Drought reduces the moisture content of vegetation and soil, making them more prone to ignition and combustion. Drought also affects the health and resilience of forests, making them more vulnerable to pests, diseases, and fire. For instance, drought can weaken trees' defenses against bark beetles, which are insects that bore into trees and kill them by introducing fungi or disrupting their nutrient flow. Dead trees provide more fuel for wildfires and make them harder to control. Climate change and drought have a synergistic effect on wildfire risk in Canada. They create a positive feedback loop that amplifies each other's impacts. For example, climate change increases the frequency and intensity of droughts, which in turn increase the frequency and intensity of wildfires. Wildfires then release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which further enhances climate change. This cycle can lead to more severe and widespread wildfires in Canada in the future. In conclusion, climate change and drought are two interrelated factors that have increased the risk of wildfires in Canada. They have created hotter and drier conditions that make vegetation more flammable and fire spread faster. They have also affected the precipitation patterns and forest health that influence fire occurrence and behavior. As climate change continues to worsen, So will the wildfire situation in Canada, unless we take urgent action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing environment. Human activities such as logging, mining, and camping contributed to the ignition and spread of the Canadian wildfires in several ways. Here are some of the main factors that led to the series of unfortunate events. Logging and mining create large areas of cleared land that are more exposed to sunlight and wind, making them drier and more flammable. They also reduce the natural barriers that can slow down or stop fire spread, such as trees and wetlands. Logging and mining also produce waste materials that can catch fire easily, such as wood chips, sawdust, and coal dust. Camping is a common recreational activity in Canada, especially in the spring and summer months. However, many campers are careless or negligent with their fire use, leaving behind unattended or poorly extinguished campfires that can ignite nearby vegetation. Campfires are also a source of sparks that can fly into dry grass or leaves and start a fire. According to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, human activity caused 49% of wildfires across the country last year. Other human activities that can cause wildfires include agricultural burning, power lines, off-road vehicles, cigarettes, fireworks, and arson. These activities involve heat, electricity, or chemicals that can ignite flammable materials or create sparks that can travel long distances. Some of these activities are intentional, while others are accidental or negligent. These human activities not only cause wildfires, but also make them worse by contributing to climate change. Climate change is increasing the frequency and intensity of heat waves, droughts, and windstorms that create the ideal conditions for fire ignition and spread. Climate change is also affecting the vegetation and soil moisture levels, making them more prone to burning. As a result, Canada has experienced more severe and longer fire seasons in recent years, with devastating impacts on air quality, public health, wildlife, and ecosystems. The Canadian wildfires of 2021 and 2023 were the result of a series of unfortunate events that created the perfect conditions for massive blazes. One of these events was the lack of coordination and resources among different agencies and jurisdictions that hampered the firefighting efforts. Canada is a vast country with multiple levels of government and organizations involved in wildfire management. Each province and territory has its own fire agency, which may cooperate with federal agencies such as Parks Canada, Indigenous Services Canada, and the Canadian Armed Forces. There are also municipal fire departments, private contractors, and international partners that may assist in firefighting operations. However, this complex system can also create challenges for effective communication, coordination, and resource allocation. For instance, some provinces may have different fire danger rating systems, fire reporting protocols, or fire suppression strategies than others. This can make it difficult to share information and resources across jurisdictions, especially when fires cross provincial or national borders. Moreover, some provinces may face more severe fire situations than others, creating an imbalance in the demand and supply of firefighting resources. For example, in 2021, British Columbia declared a state of emergency due to the unprecedented number of wildfires burning in the province. This meant that BC had to request additional resources from other provinces and countries, which may have limited their own firefighting capacity. Another challenge is the limited availability of specialized resources, such as aircraft, equipment, and trained personnel. These resources are essential for fighting large and complex fires, especially in remote or inaccessible areas. However, they are also expensive and scarce, and may not be evenly distributed across the country. For example, in 2023, Ontario faced a shortage of water bombers due to high demand from other provinces and mechanical issues. Furthermore, the changing nature of wildfires due to climate change poses new challenges for firefighting agencies. Wildfires are becoming more frequent, intense, and unpredictable, requiring more resources and coordination to contain them. Climate change also affects the length and severity of the fire season, which may strain the existing firefighting resources and personnel. In summary, the lack of coordination and resources among different agencies and jurisdictions hampered the firefighting efforts during the Canadian wildfires of 2021, and this was one of the unfortunate events that contributed to the devastating impacts of these fires on people, property, and the environment.